Hey, this Judging Waits bringing you another Titanfall strategy slash tip guide. This time we're going to be looking at the game mode Last Titan Standing. This is a fun game mode if you're playing with friends, and a frustrating game mode if you're playing by yourself. Luckily, I was playing with a full party of a group of friends from 3dayrespawn.com. Those guys are great to play with. Big shout out to you guys. But I want to talk about pilot loadouts, I want to talk about Titan loadouts, and I want to talk about strategies. So let's get right into this strategy. Now, Last Titan Standing is all about destroying the enemy team's Titans. Everybody starts off with a Titan, and as soon as you destroy all the enemy Titans, that will give you a win for the round. Now, whoever wins 4 rounds gets the best of 7. You will get the actual victory for the game, so just keep that in mind. But let's turn to pilot loadouts. I'd recommend running the Spitfire LMG. Now, hopefully you spend most of your time in your Titan. We might talk about a little strategy about that, but if you get out, the Spitfire LMG with the Slammer mod, that just melts Titans super fast. Now, as far as lethals, I'd recommend either arc grenades or satchels. Arc grenades, kind of really pester the enemy Titans, really get annoying. Satchels are great for rodeoing. You can just jump on them, throw a couple of those, and then get out of there. Then as far as abilities, you might want to go with stim or cloak, just depending on your play style. That's pretty much a preference. Tier 1, I really like quick reload. That helps out when you get out and you're using your anti-Titan weapons. Just helps with that quick reload. Extra explosives, though, I can see that coming in handy. Tier 2, you might want to go with a guardianship, and I'll talk about that when we talk strategy. But Ice Pick, Dead Man's Trigger, I could all see those things really coming into play a little bit. Nothing really major there. But burn cards, all right? Obviously, ones like Massive Payload, where you get that bigger nuclear explosion, or Supercharger, where you get that pre-charged core abilities. Those are going to really come in handy in this one. Also, amped up anti-Titan weapons. I always throw those away, but I wish I would have kept them for this game mode, because they really can come in handy. I really like, and I forgot to mention this in the pilot loadout, but choose the mag launcher. I think that is the best anti-Titan weapon, especially if you get an amped up version. That thing is just crazy. But also things like shock rocks, where you get that infinite amount of arc grenades, can really come in handy. Don't use a spare Titan card where you call in a Titan. It just does not work, and you're going to end up wasting that. But that's what I go for as far as burn cards. Now let's talk about your Titans. All right. All your Titans come with the same shield. It's the same shield for each one of them. The difference between these is the Ogre has more health, the Atlas has the medium health, and the Strider has the slower health. So you got to really think about your play style and the map that you're going to be playing on to pick your chassis. If it's an open map, for instance, a Strider Titan might be a lot of fun, being able to run in and out of stuff and everything like that, playing those hit and run things. An Ogre Titan, though, might favor a map where it's kind of funneled and you have to stay back or something like that. It just gives you that extra survivability. I personally always pretty much go with the Atlas. I like something that's going to be kind of in the middle. An Ogre is just a little too slow for me. I like having those 2 dashes, so I go with that. A Strider is just a little too fragile, but like I said, it just really depends on the map. Now, as far as what to load it out, you really need to think of how you're going to play the map and how you're going to play the game. If you're going to sit back, I'd probably go with something like the Plasma Railgun and Arc Cannon, so that you could just snipe these guys as they're approaching, and put up a particle wall to kind of hide behind. If you're going to be more aggressive, though, and go after some people, I'd probably go with the 40mm cannon. That seems to be my favorite. I also like the XO16 chain gun for getting in around people. I've really seen people use the quad rockets on a Strider really well with hit and run tactics, so it just depends on your play style and how you're going to do it. But just think about that. The Vortex Shield can also be pretty interesting or pretty effective, especially if you're more aggressive, but we'll kind of talk about that with strategy. Now, I wouldn't recommend going with Electric Smoke. You don't see a lot of people rodeoing right now, but if you did, you can just ask a teammate, hey, shoot this guy off the back of me. But as far as Tier 1, again, this really just depends on your play style. If you're the type of person that likes to drive into and be aggressive against the enemy, nuclear ejection could really come in handy. I personally like Regen Booster, because I kind of play a middle of the road with it in terms of aggressiveness, so sometimes I'll get in trouble and get my shields knocked out, and being able to just back up and recharge those a lot faster gets me back into the game. Fast loader, dash quick charger, those could be all things that come in handy. But Tier 2, I really like auto eject. I like living through stuff, so that auto eject really comes in handy. But Survivor, I could see that, being able to use that to have extra time to take enemy Titans out and get those points for that. Core Accelerator, Big Punch, Core Extender, those are all good things too. Just again, just depends on your play style. Now, let's get into strategy, and this is the best piece of advice I can give you, and the simplest is, like I said at the beginning, go in with a full party, or just make sure you are communicating to the people on your team. If the people on your team are not communicating, this is going to be a rough game mode to play, so try and go in with a full party, or as many as you can. Now, obviously, too, as you're playing, you want to avoid situations where you get outnumbered, and you want to be in the situations where you outnumber enemy titans and everything like that, and that seems pretty obvious, but you got to be careful if you're the type of person that likes to play aggressive, because you can rush in there and then all of a sudden find yourself surrounded by titans and you're just going to end up dying. So I'd recommend flanking around if you're the aggressive type. I love to flank around, get in behind or on the side while my teammates are kind of coming up the middle, and you can score some massive damage on there. So use that flank, use the outside of the map to cover your rear, and just, you know, be careful with that. Also too, you know, talk to your teammates about which way you're going and ask them which way they're going, because you can kind of focus on one side of the map. And usually if you're playing people that aren't coordinated well, you'll have some people going up the left, some people going up the right. So if you got your whole team focused on the people going up the right, you can take those guys out really quick and then take on the other guys. Also too, you know, just be communicating about if you see titans coming up the rear, you just want to really make sure you don't get caught in any kind of crossfire. So if you're moving aggressive, like I said, you know, put somebody up in the front that has a vortex shield. He can kind of absorb all that stuff that's coming in and then shoot it back in there. And also too, have people with those shield walls. Those are both a good passive loadout and a good aggressive loadout. We were kind of working with that, where we would put somebody up in front with that shield wall, with that particle wall. We'd deploy it, all shoot behind it, and then we'd have somebody else move up, deploy their shield, and kind of worked in unison and work together. So do that, and that's, again, you know, that comes back to communication. Now, two other pieces of advice for you, and these really go hand in hand if you plan on being aggressive, is you have to keep track of your shield. And I know that sounds pretty obvious, but you have to manage that well. And you also have to know where you're at on the map, because when you're getting into fights, if you get into trouble, you need to be able to get behind cover or get away from them so you can recharge your shield. So pay attention to that, and be careful when you're moving up. Don't move up while your shield is recharging or while your shield is down. Wait till your shield recharges and then move up, then engage the enemy. You don't want to throw your mech away just needlessly. So be aware of the map, be aware of places that you can get out from getting fired upon and get, you know, recharged and everything like that. And also just, you know, make sure you're smart with your shield. Don't be afraid to pull back, to just kind of hang back until that shield recharges. If you just go straight at people all nuts, you're just going to get destroyed and taken out really easy. Now, let's move on and talk about being passive, all right? And you want to make sure that if you're going to be passive, you are really still communicating well with everybody. That way you can tell where people are coming from and you can focus fire on mechs. But if you're going to be passive, like I said before, I'd recommend going with a railgun or the arc cannon and then that particle wall. Now, I personally really like the 40mm. That is great at sniping people, but it also allows me to be aggressive if the situation changes. So it's a little bit more well balanced in my opinion. But you can definitely hang back, take advantage of cover of buildings, of walls and everything like that. Also look for turrets. Man, if you can hang back by a turret, that's almost like having another mech. Not really, but it definitely is a distraction or gives them something else to think about. So don't be afraid to hang back by those turrets. Now, we did run into a clan that had a pretty interesting strategy. Seemed like a lot of them were running their Titans, but they would get out, put their Titan into autopilot mode, and actually use their amped up anti-Titan weapons. So it was almost like going against twice as many people, because you had to worry about the Titan, but you also had to worry about these pilots with these amped up Titan weapons, and those weapons are pretty effective, you know, especially like I said, the mag launcher or some of the other ones. So that might be an interesting thing to try out. If you do, make sure you equip your Titan with that guardianship. It just makes it more accurate when it's in that autopilot mode. I think that would really help it out. But that's it for my guide. Let me know if you got any questions or comments. Keep in mind, the best players are the ones that communicate and the ones that are able to adapt, because strategies will come and go. There's always going to be different players that you're playing against, different maps, different situations. So make sure you are flexible and trying different things out. But guys, as always, take care and God bless.